Okay, so in this video we're going to look at how we can make some adjustments to our set, how we can play with things like the transposition of the song, the key signature, how we can affect the tempo, and how we can change some of the volumes of either the overall track or the individual tracks. So first thing we'll do is have a look at tempo. So if you remember, we previously set the first song at 145 BPM, and then we changed this automation line so that You Alone Can Rescue would play at 76 beats per minute. Let's say we want to actually make that track slower, and we wanted to physically make all the parts that are playing slower as well. So to do that, we're going to have to activate warping. So we're going to hold down the first track, click the first track, hold down Shift and click the bottom track. Then in our viewer box down here, we're going to click warp. Now, what warp allows us to do, let's set that to complex. What warp allows us to do is play around with the time stretching of those songs so that we can either make them faster or slower without affecting the pitch, or we can change the pitch without affecting the tempo. So if you remember, we set our bottom limit shelf to 76 beats per minute. So let's make that a little bit slower. Let's type in 65 so we've got some room to play with. And you can see that that's given us some more room here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down this breakpoint and I'm going to drag it to very roughly around the 70 mark. There we go, that's close enough for now. Let's put it back on the line. Great. So now You Alone Can Rescue is going to play at 69.49 beats PM. So let's play that and listen to how that sounds.
Piano, 2, 3, 4.
There we go. So you can hear that we've played with the tempo, we've slowed that track right down, but using Ableton's powerful engine we've not actually made it sound like we've affected it, or made it sound like there's any loss in quality of the actual track. Now I'm going to go up to this box here, and I'm going to type in some numbers just to show you the kind of extent we can slow it down to. So let's take it back to the original, 76 beats per minute. And now let's take it up to, let's say, 86 beats per minute. Or what about 100? Just starting to sound a little bit like we're stretching it too far now, so let's try 110. And what if we slowed it right down to 50? And then back to the original 76. Brilliant. So you can see that we can play quite a long way actually with changing the tempo of the tracks. There's a few ways we can change tempo. We can type them in like I did here. We can tap our tempo in, or we can set the actual automation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it back to its original. To do that, I'm just going to lift this back in above where we're going to set the shelf, type the shelf back in at 76 beats per minute, and then drag that down to the bottom. Now you see that this line that was red has now gone to a brown colour. That's because we've actually overwritten that automation. So to take it back to our arrangement, we're going to click this red button here, which is back to arrangement. So that's going to put the automation back in. Great. So let's have a look at transposition. So again, all the tracks are already warped, so we don't need to do that again. But we just need to select which tracks we actually want to transpose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the top track. This time I'm going to hold down the command key, and I'm going to select the ones that I want to transpose. So lead vocal, BBs, acoustic, electric 1 and 2, keys, bass. Now I'm not going to transpose the drum channel, because obviously that's just drum sounds and we don't need to change the key signature of that one. I'm going to change enhance, I'm going to leave the click as it is, leave the shake as it is, and I'm going to leave the cues as they are as well. So just grab the instruments that are actually need to change in key. So let's remind ourselves how that sounds.
Piano, 2, 3, 4.
So this is its original key. Oh, I just need to select them again quickly while it's playing. And now I'm going to come down to this transpose button here, and I'm going to click the line and I'm going to drag it back to, there you go, Now, I don't know if you noticed there, but I changed the warp mode.
First one.
Now, earlier on I advised that Complex is a good one to use, but because we're using vocals here, I've gone for Complex Pro, and you would have noticed the difference in the vocals. So let me just show you that again, actually. If I play it from verse 1, and change it back to Complex, you can see that the quality of the vocal isn't quite as clear as it should be. Complex Pro has been able to warp that much clearer and keep that lead vocal sounding pretty good. Let's take it back to its original key by double clicking this arrow here. There we go. And let's say we want to take it up 2 this time, so I'm going to drag it and take it up 1, 2. So there we go, we've actually taken it down 2 semitones back to its original key and then up 2 semitones. Now, you'll tend to find that warping instruments is quite easy. You can stretch it quite a long way and still have them sounding quite good. Vocals tend to be a little bit trickier, as you saw there. So I'd recommend to not take vocals too far away from the original key. But if we did take it a little bit further, let's take the whole track up 4 semitones from its original. Let's see how that sounds.
First one, all in.
I'll take it back to its original by double clicking this. You hear the difference. Great, so let's play around with the tempo and also with the key, the transposition. Let's just change some volumes now. So, there's 2 ways again we can do this. Let's say we want to affect the overall volume of that entire track. We can do that down on our master channel. So if we'd come down here and we select track volume, you can see that the volume is the same for both tracks, the overall total volume. Let's say that we want to make You Alone Can Rescue a little bit louder. So let's put a breakpoint in where the song starts, another breakpoint in, and then we can actually drag this up here, and then when it hits that track, that will instantly be louder. Or we can set a fade by dragging that back, so it slowly gets louder. Or it might be that at the end, that last chord from the song before, Let God Arise, we want that to fade out. So let's put a breakpoint in here and set that to fade. And then we can slowly fade in through the first verse all the way through to the repeat if we wanted to. So you can really play around with this to get the exact arrangement you want. So let's just hear how that sounds. Watch the volume on that one. See down here that the volume automation is changing, and this track starting quite quiet. And then as it's playing, it's just gradually getting louder, and by the time it hits the end of verse 1, the repeat of verse 1, it'll be up louder than originally. Great, so that's automation as far as the overall track volume. If I wanted to delete that, I can simply right click over here and come down and just select delete automation, and that will take it back out to a straight line. You probably wouldn't want to affect it as extreme as I showed you there, but you can just increase the volume of certain tracks there. So let's say we wanted to play around with individual instrument volumes now. So let's have a look at acoustic guitar, for example. There's a couple of things we can do. Again, on the mixer, we've got a couple of automations. So let's do first one, speaker on, speaker off. That simply allows us to turn that track on or off as far as an automation. So it might be that we want the acoustic guitar on for the first song, but not for the second song. But we don't want to be clicking this yellow button. So let's put a breakpoint in at the end of song 1 and another one, and then let's drag that down. And then simply what's going to happen is when it plays the end of the song, it's going to turn off the acoustic guitar. So let's just have a look at that. Final chord. Watch this yellow button over here. Acoustic guitar is on, and now it's turned off. It's a really good way of selecting different instruments for different songs as well. And again, if I right click this, I can select delete automation. Or I can play around with the volume on this as well. So let's say our track volume is very low. So let's take our track volume all the way up. And let's say that we actually just want the acoustic guitar on You Alone Can Rescue to just be quieter than the previous song. So let's put a breakpoint in there and another breakpoint in, and then we can drag the volume down for that whole song so that the guitar will be quieter for that song as well. And again, I can right click and click delete automation. So there you go. That's how we can play with the tempo, how we can play with the key, the transposition, and how we can affect the volume of individual tracks or the master tracks and set that as automated. Don't forget when you finish to click File, Collect All and Save. So let me show you that one. Collect all and save, and that will make sure that everything that we've done will be saved back in your file ready to use next time you open it.